I used to joke that my husband David was a magician. Turns out he was. He made an entire second life disappear right under my nose just 10 miles down the road. That's how I start telling people the story, and believe me, it gets their attention. Most folks expect a tale of infidelity, a fling, a one-night stand. But what I lived through, that was a masterclass in deception, a whole other level of betrayal that still makes my stomach clench. It wasn't just a betrayal of vows. It was a betrayal of reality itself. It was like living in a perfectly crafted illusion, only to have the curtain violently ripped away, revealing a stage you never knew existed. For years, I genuinely believed I had it all: a loving husband, a cozy home in the suburbs, and a life woven with quiet, comfortable routines. David was my rock, my confidant, the man who'd bring me coffee in bed every Saturday and laugh at my terrible puns. He was everything I thought I wanted, everything I thought I deserved. And that, I've learned, is the cruelest part of it all. The deeper you fall, the harder you hit. The more perfect the lie, the more shattering the truth. So, how did I miss it? How could anyone miss something so monumental, so utterly life-altering, happening practically next door? That's the question that haunts my quiet moments. The one that makes me replay every memory, every conversation, every late night at the office with a cold, analytical eye. Was I naive, too trusting, or was David just that good? He swept me off my feet just like in the movies. David and I met at a friend's backyard barbecue in the summer of 2010. He had this easy laugh, a twinkle in his eye, and a way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room. He remembered the small things: my favorite coffee order, the way I'd tap my pen when I was deep in thought, the obscure band I loved in high school. It was intoxicating. For the first time in my life, I felt truly seen, truly cherished. He'd bring me wildflowers he picked on his morning runs, which, looking back, was probably when he was visiting them. He'd leave little notes for me in my lunchbox, silly drawings, or just a simple "thinking of you." My friends would tease me, saying I'd found my fairy tale, and I believed them. Every date felt like an adventure. Every conversation deepened our bond. Our first apartment together was small, cozy, filled with furniture passed down from relatives, a little worn, but full of memories and endless laughter. We'd cook elaborate meals from scratch, burn dinner half the time, and then just order pizza, collapsing onto the couch in a fit of giggles. He'd hold me close, whispering about our future, about kids, about growing old together in a house with a big garden. I envisioned it all crystal clear. I trusted him implicitly, not just with my heart, but with my dreams. He was my safe harbor, the one person I could always count on. When we finally got married 5 years after that first barbecue, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Our wedding was intimate, just close family and friends, a perfect reflection of our love. He cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. Real tears. Or so I thought. We settled into a comfortable rhythm. Weekends were for hiking, exploring new local coffee shops like the Daily Grind downtown, or just lounging around reading. David was always busy with work, often traveling, but he made sure to call every night, even if it was just a quick check-in. He was the most attentive partner I'd ever had. He'd listen patiently to my work frustrations, celebrate my small victories, and console me during my defeats. He pushed me to pursue my passions, cheering me on when I started my own online craft business. He was, by all accounts, the ideal husband. The kind you read about in books, the kind your girlfriends envy. It was a beautiful, serene bubble, and I was blissfully unaware of the cracks already forming beneath the surface. I never once questioned his late nights or his frequent business trips to what he called the south side of the city. Why would I? He was David. My David. He was perfect. The first tremor was subtle, almost imperceptible. A stray receipt for a children's amusement park ride tucked deep in a coat pocket I was sending to the dry cleaners. "Oh, that must be from my niece's birthday." he'd said smoothly, without missing a beat when I'd playfully asked about it. Forgot to throw it out? I'd bought it. Why wouldn't I? Then came the recurring, vaguely familiar phone number that would pop up on his call log late at night, always deleted by morning. When I brought it up, he'd dismiss it as a telemarketer or a wrong number, occasionally adding, "You know how those robots are, hon?" My gut, though, started to whisper, a cold, tiny voice of unease. Then one Tuesday, his business trip to Chicago was suddenly cut short. He was home by noon, looking pale and flustered. "Flight got canceled," he mumbled, avoiding my gaze, but I'd heard the weather report. Flights were fine. Later that day, I saw a text message flash across his phone screen, a notification he hadn't cleared, from a number I didn't recognize. "Hope everyone's okay. Saw the ambulance turn onto Oakwood." Oakwood Avenue was barely 10 miles from our house on the other side of the suburban sprawl, a street I barely knew. It struck me as odd. Why would someone text him about an ambulance in a neighborhood he supposedly had no connection to? My heart began to pound a little harder. My usual easygoing nature began to fray. I started noticing things. His phone was always face down, always on silent. He'd excuse himself to take calls in the garage, speaking in hushed tones. He started locking his laptop, something he'd never done. The man who used to share every detail of his day now seemed to exist behind a series of locked doors. The trust, once so solid, began to erode grain by painful grain. I felt foolish, paranoid. Maybe I was just imagining things, letting my insecurities get the better of me. But the whispers turned into insistent shouts. I was walking on eggshells, constantly on edge. One afternoon, while he was in the shower, the phone buzzed with an incoming text from that familiar yet unrecognized number. My fingers hovered over the screen. It was wrong, I knew, to snoop, but a desperate, gnawing hunger for answers overcame my scruples. I opened the message. It was short, chillingly casual. "Kids have soccer practice at 5. Don't forget to pick up Sarah's uniform." Sarah, soccer, kids. The world tilted. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. My eyes scanned the message again, searching for an explanation, a joke, anything that made sense. But there was nothing. Just the brutal, undeniable clarity of those words. Sarah. It was a girl's name. David didn't have a sister named Sarah. He didn't have any kids. Not with me, anyway. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the text history, a sickening wave of nausea washing over me. It was all there, casual banter, logistical arrangements for the kids, discussions about school events, doctor's appointments. It was a domestic life, a family life meticulously documented through digital breadcrumbs. And it wasn't ours. It was his. His other life. My vision blurred, tears stinging my eyes. I felt a cold dread creep into my bones. Who was Sarah? Who were these kids? And who was the person sending these texts? The answer, a horrifying realization, slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. He had another family. A secret family. And they were just 10 miles away. My world didn't just crack, it exploded. The air left my lungs, and for a moment I thought I was going to black out. I stood there, phone clutched in my hand, the screen, a glaring testament to the lie I'd been living. When David finally emerged from the shower, humming a cheerful tune, I looked at him truly, looked at him, and saw a stranger. The man I loved, the man I married, was a phantom. "Who is Sarah?" My voice was barely a whisper, a ragged gasp. He froze, his towel halfway around his waist. His cheerful hum died in his throat. His eyes, usually so warm, went cold, then flickered with panic. "What are you talking about?" He stammered, trying to sound nonchalant, but his voice was tight. I held up the phone, the text message displayed like a subpoena. This. "Kids have soccer practice at 5. Don't forget to pick up Sarah's uniform." Who is Sarah David, and who are the kids? His face drained of color. He looked like a deer caught in headlights, utterly exposed. The nonchalance melted into a desperate, pathetic attempt at deflection. It's a friend, honey. A coworker. Just a joke. A joke. My voice rose raw with disbelief and rage. A joke about soccer practice and uniforms. David, this isn't a joke. This is a life. Your life. And it's not with me. Tears streamed down my face, now hot and angry. How long, David? How long have you been doing this? He tried to approach me to grab my hand, but I recoiled as if burned. Please, Olivia, let me explain. It's complicated. Complicated! I shrieked the word tearing from my throat. Complicated is figuring out what to make for dinner. This is a monstrous lie. A double life. 10 miles, David. They're 10 miles away. The sheer proximity of his other existence. The audacity of it was a physical punch to the gut. It hit me like a ton of bricks. He finally broke slumping onto the bed, burying his face in his hands. He admitted it all, a torrent of pathetic excuses and half-truths tumbling out. Another woman, a child, then another. A family he'd started before me, or perhaps simultaneously. The timeline was a blur of sickening revelations. He claimed it was a mistake, that he loved me, that he just got stuck. Stuck! I spat, shaking with a fury I'd never known I possessed. You built an entire separate universe and you're stuck. You lied to my face every single day for years. You watched me dream about a future. We'd have a future you already had with someone else. My heart was a shattered mess, bleeding out betrayal. The choice at that moment was clear, searing, and agonizing. There was no going back, no forgiveness for this kind of deceit. The man I loved was gone, replaced by a stranger, a deceiver. I couldn't stay. I couldn't breathe the same air as his lies. Out, get out, I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake inside me. Get out of my house. Get out of my life. I don't ever want to see you again. He looked up, tears in his own eyes, a desperate plea on his face. But I was done. There was nothing left to salvage, nothing left to discuss. The perfect picture had been ripped to shreds, and all that remained was the cold, hard truth. Leaving David wasn't just walking out. It was like exiting a meticulously constructed stage set only to realize the real world outside was far more chaotic and unfamiliar than the one I'd known. The divorce was messy as expected, a parade of lawyers and bewildered stares from friends who couldn't comprehend the depth of his deception. Each court appearance, each revelation about his other family. Yes, there was a whole other woman, a wife even, and 2 kids, Sarah and little Leo, felt like another fresh wound. It was a constant, brutal reminder of the years I'd spent living a fantasy. For a long time, the betrayal overshadowed everything. I struggled with profound shame, not because of what David did, but because I'd been so utterly blind. How could I have been so foolish, so trusting? The anger burned a hole in my stomach, and the sadness was a heavy blanket I couldn't shake off. I stopped trusting people, retreated into myself. My small business, once a source of joy, felt hollow. Every kind gesture, every compliment I scrutinized with a cynical eye, searching for the hidden agenda, the subtle deception. It was exhausting, but slowly, painstakingly, I started to pick up the pieces. Therapy became my lifeline, a safe space to unpack the trauma, to understand that his actions weren't a reflection of my worth, but a reflection of his own deep-seated flaws. I started journaling, pouring out the venom, the hurt, the confusion onto paper. I reconnected with friends who had patiently waited for me to emerge from my cocoon of grief. They reminded me of who I was before David, before the lies. I started taking long walks, rediscovering the simple beauty of a sunrise, the calming rhythm of the ocean waves. The healing wasn't linear. Some days the memories would ambush me, sending me spiraling back into the darkness. But then I'd remind myself I survived. I walked away from a lie, and in doing so, I chose myself. I chose truth. I chose dignity. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Sometimes the most dangerous betrayals aren't the ones you see coming, but the ones cloaked in perfect love. And the only way to truly heal is to confront the ugly truth, even if it shatters your world. You have to mourn the loss, not just of the person, but of the future you believed you had. And then you have to find the courage to build a new one brick by painful brick. It's been 3 years since I uncovered David's secret life. The anger has dulled, replaced by a quiet strength. The shame has dissipated, replaced by resilience. I'm not saying I'm completely over it, because some scars never fully fade, but I'm no longer defined by his deceit. I'm defined by my survival, by my strength, and by the love I'm slowly, cautiously learning to give back to myself. What about you? Have you ever had a moment where your entire perception of someone shattered, revealing a truth you never saw coming? How did you navigate that seismic shift? Share your thoughts in the comments below.